Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hey everybody, good morning. I'm Doc Hamels and welcome to another edition of Chautauqua Sunrise. Hey, if you're just getting up, look outside. It's unbelievable. My ride from Ripley over to Mayville today was spectacular. A few of us were sharing the fact that it looked just like something you'd see in a painting. The snow is absolutely gorgeous, and there's wildlife, and we saw horses out there running around. It's just great. And one thing I love about this winter is I have not put any of my clothes away for various seasons. I got my spring jacket ready, I have my summer jacket, I got my winter coat, and throughout each week I switch up because from Monday through Sunday it seems like the season's constantly changing here. We're going to have one of those days today. I think we might be able to get away with a light spring jacket, at least tomorrow anyways. They're saying 47 degrees. Spectacular. That's what I love about living around here. No week, no winter, nothing is ever the same. Every time we get up, it's a little bit of a surprise. Okay, well, if this is your first time watching Chautauqua Sunrise, I want to welcome you. Our show is primarily mission with the idea that we are covering all kinds of things here in Chautauqua County, what's good about it, and the people that live here, the services that are provided, and there's just so much to discover about what's going on in our county, and we just take a little bite every week and try to bring that to you. And I was overwhelmed this week by a request for folks that either are recommending other people or people themselves have heard about the show and they want to come on. And it's so much fun for me to schedule people because now we're scheduling into late summer and into the early fall already. I got to tell you, it's 2016. We got a great lineup of shows that cover all kinds of topics, and I do welcome you every Saturday morning to tune in right here at 9 o'clock. And for those of you who are going to watch the show later in the week, of course you can watch it at various times here on Access 5. You can catch us in Jamestown, up in Fredonia area, and of course our good friends at WRFA, low power to the people. Dennis Drew, Jason Sample, and Steve Schulman over there, they rebroadcast us Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're so glad that they do that for us. as we're all sharing the same information and trying to promote what's good about our county, okay? So I got a few announcements, but I do want to remind you that this is a live show on Saturday mornings. So if you're watching this not on Saturday morning, don't call in. But if you do have a question, you could call in and leave a message. That's who you'll get. You'll get an answering machine, or you can contact us through the various social media if you have a question later in the week. For those of you that are shy, you can call in here at 753-5225. Tell whoever answers the phone your question, and they'll relay it to me. I got my little handy piece of technology here, and a little message will pop up somewhere along the line, and we'll ask your question and get your answers, okay? Whatever it is. Also remember, if you have a club or organization that you want us to announce something, more than happy to do it. Free of charge. We're a community service. Also, we have the community bulletin that rolls throughout the week when I'm not here and the other folks aren't here, and we're happy to put that announcement on the community bulletin board for you. So check us out. If you haven't seen our Facebook site, we're on Facebook. Just push Chautauqua Sunrise. I don't know, 250 some people are following us now. It's great. And you can always leave a message there too. So we're available in all kinds of ways. Okay, let's talk about some announcements and things that are coming up, and I got a few other things to share, and then we'll get right to our show, okay? So right off the bat, we got a fun thing going on this week and next weekend over at Zebro's Harbor House, right down there in Barcelona. If you don't know where Barcelona is, go straight through the lights in Westfield and go all the way to the lake and keep going, get right to the lake. And there's a great restaurant down there called Zebro's, and they're presenting a dinner theater production of It's a Wonderful Life. It's a radio show, and it's going to be January 31, which is tomorrow at 7, and February 6, which is next Saturday at 7. The dining room opens at 6:30, and if you want to be part of that event, call 326-2017 and make your reservations. Now, you say, why am I advertising a restaurant? Because the folks that are putting this show on is the Lakeshore Community Center for the, wait a minute. Lakeshore Center for the Arts. I could put too many words in there. And they're putting on the production at Zebro's, okay? So they want you to know that they're doing this, and I'm part of that group. It's a fun show. We got the old-time special effects where, you know, people walking and glass breaking and all kinds of doors opening, things like that. And I have some fun parts in there, and I have 6 different voice characterizations I've got to do. I'm getting ready to do cartoons here pretty soon. So anyways, check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. We'll talk about it again next week, but lots of fun. Okay, the next one is a new announcement I want to bring to your attention. This is the Ripley Veterans of Valor Project, as it says. And Bob McIntosh, who was on the show some time ago, has been leading the charge on this. And there's going to be 2 signs erected in Ripley at the Veterans Roll of Honor, right smack dab in the middle of town, near the school there, right on their property. And there's going to be 2 signs erected there for any service person, I say person, man or woman, who earn a variety of awards. And I'm going to go through that list here in a second. And while this is still up, if you know of anybody that lived in Ripley or was born in Ripley or, you know, any connection to Ripley, if they received any one of these medals of valor, we want to know, okay? Medal of Honor, which is like the Congressional Medal of Honor, the Silver Star, Distinguished Flying Cross, Distinguished Service Medal, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service Medal, the Air Medal, or the Purple Heart. Please let us know, and you can contact Bob at 814-440-9406. Or if you go down to the town clerk, Becky Carvalho's there, she'll take your information. And what's more important also is that they're still fundraising for this project. They're getting close, but if you would like to make a donation in honor of anyone that is being honored, their names are going to go on these signs. They have the full list down at the town building, and you'll probably see it around town at the library and other locations, but there's like 25 individuals that are going to be honored, starting the Confederate War right up till the Afghanistan War, okay? So we've got Ripley people that are going to be honored for these unbelievable acts of heroism and valor, and that's going to come up here in July, where there's going to be an unveiling right in the in Ripley during the bicentennial of Ripley, and we'll be talking more about that, I'm sure, as we go along. So if you know anybody that got an award that's not part of the list that you can find out there, or you want to make a donation, please contact those folks. Okay, I have a mark your calendar here. President's Day Weekend Winter Festival. Okay, sometimes they have an ice castle there, sometimes they don't. I'm betting man this year. I think I would win this bet. I don't think there's going to be an ice castle, but there's always fun things going on here right at the Mayville Park. And it's going to be February 12th, 13th, 14th, Lakeside Park, Mayville. And I know that they've already started the medallion contest where they've buried it somewhere around here. And there's a $250 prize, as I recall. And that's going on, and they're going to start posting clues to where it is. So if you want to get part of that fun, and I know every year there's somebody that gets that, they figure it out real quick. Okay, so that's coming up in a couple of weeks. My Rotary Club is doing the parking as always. That's always an interesting experience. Sometimes we're in shorts, and sometimes we have been in snow gear right up to our noses as far as trying to stay warm. So I don't know how we'll be dressed this year. Maybe a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses, Randy. I don't know. Okay, other information. Excuse me. Infinity Visual and Performing Arts will be hosting a February installment of, I gotta say this slow now, Pulse Poetry Slam on Thursday, February 4th at 6 p.m. The event is free, family friendly, open to the public. Audience members and performers of all ages are welcome. Infinity Visual and Performing Arts will be hosting a Kaleidoscope student performance on Friday, February 5. The next day at 7 p.m. to 8 o'clock at the Infinity Arts Cafe. And as they said, all people are welcome. It's family friendly. Some people say, why do you always talk about Infinity? Because it's just plain cool. You got so many young people learning about the fine arts, music, poetry, acting, just drumming and photography, all kinds of stuff. And this is just a great program. And it's not just for folks in Jamestown. There's kids from all over the county that go there. And so I encourage you, if you have kids, check it out. Talk to Shane Hawkins. She's the director there, and all the other folks. Great people. Okay, and I have some other information that we don't have a slide on or anything like that, but my buddy Big Mike Rao from the Chautauqua Veteran Services at the county wanted you to know that if you know of a veteran or you are a veteran and you're short on some winter clothing, which happens, so these things wear out, or if you've moved up to the area and you go, holy mackerel, it is pretty cold up here, call 661-8255, and Mike's got a bunch of stuff that he's more than happy to give you. We've got things that are donated, and we want you to stay warm this summer. All right. And then Congressman Tom Reed. When was the last time you got a chance to go up and shake a hand of a congressman? Well, you can do that. Tom is going to have town hall meetings, one in Jamestown on Saturday, January 30th from 9 to 10 at the Prendergast Library. And then the next one that's going to be nearby, it will be in the Hanover Town Hall, same day, from 11:30 to 12:30. And then he goes to other locations after that. So he's sort of doing a round robin around his district. But anyways, once again, January 30th, 9 to 10 at the Prendergast, 11:30 to 12:30, Hanover Town Hall. Now, I think y'all have watched the show enough now over the last couple of years to know I don't talk about politics a lot, but I will say this. If you got something that you want to get off your chest, you want to hear what your congressman is doing in Washington, if you want to find out what he's thinking about, what he's promoting, go talk to him. You know, he's making himself available to you. And I had the opportunity, I think I mentioned when Marianne Spanos was out here not too long ago, we both had an opportunity to sit with Tom Reed, personable guy, and listen to some things, take questions, and his aides were there taking down notes and got back to many of us on various things. So regardless of what your party is, he's your congressman, and check him out. Take a look. Okay, it was brought to my attention from my dear cameraman Randy Burt that Valentine's Day is coming up soon, and he has a suggestion. He said, you know, don't be stingy, don't shortchange the love of your life. He brought in what he's going to give to his Valentine this year. This is a 1-pound candy bar. where do you get these things? I shouldn't be advertising. But Randy, boys, you must really like somebody because the gas station. Oh, all right. That's where you buy your Valentine gifts? All right. Anyways, holy mackerel, look at the size of these things. I mean, that would kill me. I'm sure it would kill me. We're going to be talking about healthy lifestyles here in a minute. So, Randy, I don't know. We better not share that information too much. But anyways, Valentine's Day is coming up, and Randy wanted me to show you that. So we're going to take a short break here, and then we can get right to our show. We'll be right back. Thanks.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
There's no doubt about the forest. I live right on the escarpment in Ripley, and there's lots of trees there. And me and my dog Max, we go out there quite often, and I don't care what day it is, I don't care what season it is, I know my property inside and out, and it always looks different. It always speaks to me in a different way, and it's ever changing. The animals are always moving things around out there. There's the woodpecker especially, I'm just amazed by the holes they make. There was a pileated woodpecker in the neighborhood not long ago, and he must have made a hole about this big. I could put my fist in it. It was just incredible what they do out there. So anyways, enough on that. Thanks for the public service announcement, Jeff. Right now I want to welcome Dr. Earl Freling to the show. Good morning, Earl.
Good morning, John.
How are you?
Good.
How am I looking? I'm sitting up straight.
Well, that's good.
Earl,
see good posture.
Earl is the personal chiropractor of the stars here. Earl, I've been a patient of yours, over 30 years, I think.
Well, I'm in my 30th year of practice, so I'd say that's pretty close.
Darn close to it.
Yep.
You know, I came over to your office when you were in Mayville here at one time, and now you're over on Main Street in Ripley. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on is because I've had a variety of folks come on. We've talked about occupational therapy and what that can do for people, physical therapy with massage therapy, and I really think that as we are all aging, as we're all growing forward in our lives, that there's various services that maybe we need that we don't think about. We think about, just limited services sometimes, and that's why I invited you down to talk about chiropractic procedures and things like that. But before we get to that, where do you come from and what are you about?
Well,
before you got to be a doctor of chiropractic practice here.
Well, I'm a local person. I grew up in Ripley. I went to high school there and actually K through 12.
Okay.
I grew up on a small farm up on the hill, and I've always enjoyed living in the country.
So
and
you can relate to that public service announcement. Our trees are big like that out in the woods.
Yes, and the snow and the wildlife is just fantastic up there. And from there I went to Fredonia State University, where I received a Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology. And from
Medical technology?
Medical technology.
What is that?
Well, the emphasis on my curriculum was that of recombinant DNA technology, but otherwise I could have been working in a hospital doing lab work, that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but mine was geared more towards research. I didn't care for what the field was doing at the time, so I went on to chiropractic school in Chicago, National College of Chiropractic in 1982. I graduated in 1986 and received a doctorate of chiropractic at that time. In 1984, I also received a Bachelor of Science in Human Biology.
Wow.
So
you got a few degrees under your belt.
A few. And it's been an interesting 30 years.
So, like when you were a little kid, were you thinking, I want to be a chiropractor? Or
no.
Where did this come from?
No, I never really had much exposure to it other than my mother occasionally going to a chiropractor. And as a teenager, I went to an old chiropractor in Findlay Lake a couple of times with sports injuries or such a matter. But I didn't really get interested in chiropractic until I was in a bad car accident in 1981.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, and I started seeing a chiropractor in Dunkirk at the time while I was at Fredonia State. And I was in my last year at Fredonia State, and he asked me what I was going to do. And I said, well, I'm really kind of losing interest in the field I'm studying. And he said, well, have you ever considered chiropractic? And I said, well,
they're related.
yes. I said, since I've been coming here, I've become interested, and, well, one thing led to another, and I ended up going to the same school that he went to in Chicago.
Wow.
So,
And you know, isn't that the way it is? I find this over and over again. I think each one of us, somewhere in our lives, has been influenced by somebody
yes.
that saw something in us or heard something we said, and they encourage us to go into our field. That was the same for me. Someone had said to me, you know, why don't you go into education but specialize? And I said, what does that mean? And they said, well, just don't go and just get a general degree, do something special. And I know this is going to sound weird, but a lot of people don't know this, but I originally was going to be a speech therapist. Well, you guys hear me for Saturday mornings, and I get into the infinity poetry pulse slam, and I can't even get the pause out. So I rapidly realized that probably speech therapy might not be my area that I wanted to follow up, but I actually then pursued my degree working with mentally retarded individuals, and then learning behavioral disorders and all that sort of thing. But it was somebody saw something in me. They at least put me in a different direction than, you know, whatever, and they did the same for you.
Yes, he did.
So that's so cool. Okay, so you've got a lot of years of education then. It sounds like 4 and 4, so that's like 8 years?
Yeah, actually 9, because I changed my major from engineering to medical technology while I was an undergrad. So I lost a year, but that was all right.
Engineering, but that talks about how things are put together, right?
It all comes together.
Interesting.
Yeah, it did help me with my learning about structure and function of the human anatomy, and it was gave me a great edge on that process.
Okay, now I have been going to a chiropractor since I was 5 years old. At the time, I had a weak eye. Some people in the field will call strabismus, and eventually I had to have an operation on one of my eyes. But the whole thing was that the chiropractor felt through certain manipulations, I guess that's what you call it.
Yes.
I'm trying to be very professional here, and that would help strengthen my eye. And I guess it did to a degree, but not to the great degree. But anyways, I just remember going to a chiropractor at a very young age, and like your mother, my mother believed greatly in chiropractors.
Yes.
Not everybody did back in those days.
No.
And but I don't want to digress back there. But I would ask you, if you would, what's the difference between what you do and other doctors? And there's just so many kinds of doctors out there nowadays.
As chiropractors, we are considered holopathic doctors. We address the entire human frame and anatomy and physiology. We are looking at the source of disease and treating the source of disease, whereas allopathic doctors, medical doctors in particular, are more geared towards treating the symptoms with drugs. We are more towards nutrition, structure, and function, alleviating and maintaining the human frame through proper adjusting of the human spine and the nutritional counseling in many aspects. We have over 500 hours of nutrition courses in our curriculum. A lot of different things come into play. Something I learned very early on is that nothing is textbook. You come out of school and you have a fixed idea of the way things are going to be, and it becomes very obvious soon that nothing is textbook, and then when something does appear to be textbook, you start looking at it a little more closely and saying, this can't be.
It's too easy.
A lot of things you don't learn in school that are out there.
Okay. You said holopathic.
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 Yeah.
The whole body.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right.
Versus allopathic, which is geared more towards symptomatology.
So, two different approaches?
Yes.
Do they end up at the same point?
Well, hopefully. I think we are more geared towards prevention, and whereas the allopathic approach is more towards treatment of symptoms.
Okay.
And but if you can alleviate the cause of disease at its base level, then you don't have the symptoms.
Okay, so you mentioned disease a couple times. What kind of diseases are we talking here?
Well, a lot of times children, starting at a very young age, are actually born with structural problems, especially if it's a traumatic birth. I used to see that a lot in the Amish community, for instance, where they would go full term and very rarely have a C-section if there was a problem. Breech births, children are in a compromised position in utero, and they come out with many spinal subluxations. I've even seen children who have had the shapes of their heads are contorted because of the cranial bones having shifted during the compromised birth, a breech birth in particular. Children who are born with many ailments such as colic or infantile seizures is a result of spinal subluxation in many cases due to that process. And children, especially infants, respond very well to chiropractic adjusting. I've worked on many children over the years and many infants as young as six days old.
Whoa.
And
all right, spinal
subluxation.
All right, give me another way of saying or defining this
well,
for the audience.
A lot of people refer to it as a misalignment or actual pinching of nerves, but if you have two adjacent vertebrae or vertebral segments that become slightly altered in their positioning, it alters the function and movement of that area, which in turn can put pressure on the nerves that emerge from in between those. Every nerve supplies an organ or a muscle, so if the nerve is irritated or impinged in any way, that muscle or tissue or organ is more prone to a disease process, whether it's being irritated or completely impeded in its function.
Okay, thank you. Now I understand that. And like I say, when my audience is watching or listening, I try to pull back a little bit and go, okay, what are we talking about here? So everybody's on the same page. 6 days old. How do you know that baby has a pinched nerve?
Well, a lot of times children, if they're born and depending on the presentation, may have a condition where the head is tipped to the side usually, and they can't seem to right themselves, their head, the positioning, or gaze. So children that are very irritable. Colic is a very common one. A condition known as torticollis is very common.
Oh, you got to define that one. Torticollis.
Torticollis is a condition where there's spasm of a muscle that runs from the mastoid process down to the sternum.
Oh, wow.
We call it the SCM muscle because the real name is sternocleidomastoid muscle, which is a lot to say. But the SCM,
I'm not going to even try that one.
SCM works for me too. So through adjusting, we can manipulate the spine in such a way that we can alleviate that pressure that's on the muscles and structurally and functionally change that condition.
All right, so staying with the 6 day old child, the parents see something's going on and they contact you, or does the hospital, or what's your reference?
Very rarely are we contacted by the hospital. It's usually the parents that will contact us. I've worked on my own children since they were 2 weeks old, much to their dismay, and I think they thought it was some form of punishment. But as a result, my children are also very healthy. I've seen a lot of children who have had ailments throughout the years that I've worked on that have responded very, very well. They respond quickly. Usually within just a handful of adjustments, a child will be, should I say, cured of that particular condition. As we get older, we don't heal as quickly, and we just don't bounce back like we used to.
Sure.
As a result of whatever accident.
So we have childhood conditions, diseases. What other diseases do you have to deal with?
Well, a lot of people, as they age, you'll see, probably the most common thing that I see is that of sciatic neuritis, where the sciatic nerve...
My number one enemy.
Where the sciatic nerve becomes impinged, usually at the level of the pelvis or sacroiliac joint. Most commonly, people think that every time they have a sciatic nerve problem that is a protruding disc. And that's not necessarily the case. I quite often find that it's the result of what we call a torsional pelvis, where the pelvis becomes counter-rotated or torqued at the sacroiliac level. You have a sacroiliac joint on each side, which is basically the joint that holds your pelvis to your spine.
All right.
And that in turn affects the biomechanics of the pelvis in such a way that the muscles are working improperly, and one muscle in particular that overlies the sciatic nerve will go into spasm and put pressure on the sciatic nerve.
Okay, so people that are listening right now, they're going like, is that what you mean when you say I threw my back out?
Quite often,
That's
yes.
not, you're not really throwing your back out. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
but it's all of a sudden you're
Well,
like this.
Well, a lot of people will come in and say, I think I dislocated my hip. And it's really not. I can count the times on one hand I've seen an actual dislocated hip.
Yeah, that'd be
because
painful,
most people who dislocate a hip aren't walking.
Yeah.
But more commonly, it is actually the sacroiliac joint that is affected. It's not the hip per se. And I'll see a multitude of problems. You know, they might say, "Oh, I think I broke a rib," or "I cracked a rib," and in actuality, it's a subluxation of the thoracic vertebrae, which will cause the rib to ride away from or subluxate from the spine itself, creating a problem with the rib and the muscles in between the rib, which we call intercostal neuritis. So we have all these big words. But they all mean something. But after a while, when people come in and tell me they have this particular condition, and I can ask them a series of questions, and from that line of questioning, I can determine what is actually going on. You know, if they say, well, I hurt my hip's dislocated, and I'll say, well, when does it hurt the most? When you walk, or when you sit, or when getting out of the car?
So you interview them and kind of
and from that I can determine if it is actually the hip or the sacroiliac or a disc. We have orthopedic tests that we can do on people, testing neurological tests, testing reflexes. If need be, we can look into it further with an MRI or an X-ray, and we are even able to order blood tests in this state. Okay. Which is helpful in some cases.
Let's stay with sciatic, because I'm thinking, I know a lot of people over the years, and I'm not talking people of any particular age, I'm talking all ages. They say, oh man, I'm crooked today, I'm leaning to one side. I'm talking kids that are wrestlers or whatever, high schoolers. And I want to share a story with you that maybe will be something my viewers will be interested in. I threw my back out, we'll call it that, and I knew something was up. And I tried everything I could to get that vertebrae lined up again, doing Indian style sits and doing all those back cracks and everything, and it went on and on and on. And because I think this is what you're talking about. And what was happening was there was shooting pains down my left leg, and then eventually I still couldn't do anything with it, and eventually my heel started coming up. So what was that? That's sciatic, right?
It's part of it, yes. Yeah. If the nerves to the flexor compartment of the calves are irritated, which is this part of the sciatic nerve root, it will cause a spasm of those muscles, and that will start causing you to walk on your toe.
Yeah, it's exactly what
I see quite often when the one muscle that I mentioned, that connects the hip to the spine and overlies the sciatic nerve, goes into spasm. That's one of the things I will notice when someone walks in, that they will actually toe out because of that muscle is in spasm. It causes the lower extremity to externally rotate, and so they're walking toed out on that
How many
side.
people just put up with it because they don't even realize it's starting to happen and becomes part of their everyday life, right?
Yes, and it makes it worse. You kind of end up growing that way, so to speak.
Well, luckily, I think I eventually came over to see you because I thought, this is nuts, I can't keep doing this. But one of the things that I often hear people say, I'm not going to go to a chiropractor. And I go, well, why not? And they go, well, he's going to break my bones.
Unless someone has a very severe case of osteoporosis, that's unlikely. The body's pretty tough. It can take a pretty good beating. But yeah, I think as a general rule, a lot of people don't understand what we do in chiropractic. Only a small percentage of our population has actually gone to a chiropractor. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 14%. Yeah. But we are so geared in this society, in this culture. We are a drug-oriented culture. We are bombarded by commercials on TVs. Every other commercial is that for a drug. And you very rarely hear what can be done through chiropractic, not aside from personal injuries or work-related injuries. So a lot of people, the first thing they think is that, well, we want instant gratification, we want results right now, and they think, well, I'm going to go to an allopath and get this kind of drug or this kind of procedure performed. And so, unfortunately, in this day and age of specialization, if you get sent down the wrong avenue, you're kind of in trouble. You're at their whim. I see a lot of people who, unfortunately, end up going through surgery when it probably could have been avoided completely had they gone to the right doctor to begin with, whether it had been a chiropractor or a physical therapist or massage therapist. They get treated for the wrong condition. I see that a lot with cases of carpal tunnel syndrome, for instance, or a lot of times people who end up having low back surgery because of sciatic neuritis. They don't try going to a chiropractor. They'll go immediately to an orthopedic surgeon and end up having surgery when it was probably could have been prevented with a few chiropractic adjustments and maybe some rehabilitative exercises.
Okay, well, there's people saying, well, I went to a chiropractor, didn't help. I suppose there's situations where it's extreme that you can't.
Well, I find that I can help most people that come to me if they follow my instructions. But when you have someone who is not compliant with your instructions or your prescribed therapy regimen, it's a recipe for disaster. If I adjust someone for a protruding disc or a rotated pelvis and then they go out and jump on their snowmobile and ride trails for 2 days, I can almost expect that they're going to have a bigger
What were you
problem.
not thinking here? Yeah, exactly. Oh,
we have to rest. The pain is there for a reason. It's our body's way of telling us to slow down. So you need to have that as an adjunct in your therapy. The rest is all part of it.
The other thing that people will say is, well, when I go to the chiropractor, everything's popping all over the place. What's popping? What's all the noise you hear?
Well, the popping is basically the release of the fixations or subluxations where the vertebrae have been compromised in such a way that they're not moving properly. So it's almost likened to pulling a suction cup off a piece of glass.
Okay.
When you break that, release that fixation or subluxation, there will be an actual separation, momentary separation of the joint, and the hyaline cartilage that lines those joints will actually have a vacuum which is released.
So that sounds a good thing.
Yes. You don't always have to hear that.
Okay.
But a lot of people feel that that sounds like it's some kind of destruction of bony tissue. A lot of times they'll refer to chiropractors as bone crushers. We're not really destroying osseous tissue in any way, but rather we are reintroducing movement into areas that have been compromised, trying to restore the normal biomechanical function and structure.
Okay, take a breath. Folks, you're watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels, and my guest this morning is Dr. Earl Freling, a chiropractor from Ripley, New York. If you have a question for Dr. Freling, you can give us a call. You can Twitter us. You can Facebook us, email us, whatever. Don't hesitate. He's here to answer some questions. And if he can't answer, I'll do it. I'll try it, right?
Sure.
Yeah, right. Anyways, let's keep going on a few other things here that we've been talking about. So we talked about children, they were born with issues. We talked about sciatic. Other kinds of diseases, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, things like that, rheumatism, things like that?
Well, many diseases that we have in this society, I feel, are the result of poor diet. In general, many of the arthritic diseases, inflammatory diseases, are because we don't eat right. We don't get enough minerals. We eat too much fat, too much of the polysaturated fats.
Like what?
Margarine, for instance, is a polysaturated fat.
All right, let's talk about this for a minute. I got friends that are big butter people.
Yes.
They're saying, after all the years we said, don't eat butter, it's clogging your arteries. Now I'm hearing like butter and good natural fats are good for you.
Certainly.
Not, well,
but when you
will you people make up your minds for this?
Yeah, I believe any natural product is much better than a refined.
Just not lots of it.
Yeah. You take a product such as margarine, which is a hydrogenated corn oil, which is also very high in your omega-6 fatty acids. You add, basically the process involves introducing hydrogen to make the bonds in the corn oil what they call unsaturated,
right?
By adding the hydrogen, so it solidifies.
All right.
It also has a higher melting point now. So if you were to take margarine and throw it on a pan on the stove, it's going to melt a lot slower than butter, for instance. Butter's going to
almost
flash. It will. It will burn before the margarine will actually melt. So in your system, it's doing the same thing. It's clogging your system up, not only on the tissue level, say like in your arteries, but once it gets into your system, the unsaturated fats will infiltrate your cell membranes and actually interfere with the transport between cells.
So get rid of I can't believe it's butter?
Yeah.
That goes out the door.
And eventually it can affect us on a nuclear level.
All right.
And
So get rid of margarine. What else should we get rid of? I'm making a list. Barbie,
okay,
listen,
well,
my wife.
a lot of the preservatives are very bad. Salt, for instance, is something that we need to watch.
Salt?
Yeah, salt. Sea salt is pretty good.
All right,
but
sea
salt can change the pH of our bodies. It can lower the pH of our bodies, and it has been shown that salt, sugar, can cause a problem not only with things such as diabetes, but you can affect the body's ability to produce and control cancer cells by decreasing the.
I just read something about sugar and cancer. There's a big connection there.
Yes.
I got that right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say sugar,
Refined sugar.
we're talking about things that are in soda or
Yes.
pop. We're talking about the candy bars.
Right. Well, one of the largest problems right now is that of the high fructose corn syrup. We're seeing a lot of that in everything. Back at the turn of the century, 1900, the average American consumed 7 pounds of refined sugar.
Okay.
By the year 2000,
Is that in a year?
a year.
Okay, 7 pounds a year.
7 pounds a year.
Okay.
By the turn of the century, in the year 2000, the average American was consuming 120 pounds of refined sugar.
120 pounds of sugar?
120 pounds of sugar. You take a can of soda, for instance. A 12-ounce soda has a quarter cup of refined sugar in it.
Holy crow.
Yeah. So it's in everything. And by the year 2010, that was up to 165 pounds of refined sugar. So that's why we have so many obese
We're killing ourselves.
people. Yes,
We're
we are.
eating ourselves to death.
We are. And the inflammation that goes along with it, the cancer, coupled with some of the problems that we're having with immunizations. We over-immunize people. The way we treat diseases as far as infectious processes, we are not allowing the bodies to develop a full immunity. We aren't. There's a big controversy right now with breastfeeding. You know, people are getting upset because they see a woman breastfeeding in public. Breastfeeding is the best thing
Absolutely.
ever.
Yeah.
Ever. It's totally natural.
It's supposed to be.
We develop an acquired immunity from the secretory antibodies that are in the milk. All of a sudden, we're replacing this with an artificial formula.
Right.
We're over-immunizing these children. The foods that they're eating are not nutritious, and
They're not food.
there's
something
it's
else
not.
that's
It's not. So for
processed
the first time in our
stuff.
first time in our history, the generation coming up is less healthy than the one preceding it. And so all of a sudden we have problems with high rise in autism and many childhood diseases, allergies we've never even heard of before.
Oh, gosh,
I mean, who ever heard of a peanut allergy when we were a kid?
Yeah.
I mean, some of the things people are allergic to now, we'd all be dead if that was the case when we were growing up. But as a general rule, if people eat natural and healthy, eat lots of vegetables, stay away from your grain-fed cattle and meats that are raised in farms are full of toxins. As far as I'm referring mostly to like farms, where the fish farms and shrimp farms, where they grow these animals in their own waste, and the bioconcentration of the toxins in their system can become up to 800 times what it is in the environment.
Well, this is just cheery. I can't wait to go home and have lunch.
Yeah. You're going to be eating a veggie sandwich here.
Well, actually, I eat a lot of beans now and things like that. And I want you to know, I did discover on my very own that potato chips are not one of the major food groups.
I thought it was.
I did away with potato chips, and I reduced my salt intake by like 2,000%, just eliminating potato chips. And I love potato chips. But, okay, are there certain foods or things, for instance, omega-3, fish oil?
Yes.
I just read just yesterday an article that says, well, we can't say exactly it does this, but we can't say it doesn't do that, so keep taking it.
Right.
So
I believe if you have already had a problem with a certain condition caused by too many saturated fatty acids, trans fatty acids, and omega-6 fatty acids, I think that by continuing to take the fish oil, it can reduce the inflammation simply by acting as a solvent and softening the cell membranes so that it can restore the normal transportation processes that occur across cell membranes on every level, whether it be on the nuclear level.
well, that explains why I'm doing so much better.
Well, it could be part of it. Drinking a lot, of
Water.
water is very good versus soda or some of the juices we have now that are very high in preservatives and refined sugars.
So a lot of things you're talking about is pretty simple to do to better health.
Certainly.
And so obviously this all plays into your joints and in your muscles and all that jazz. Are there any, okay, you'll see all the time on Facebook, 4 superfoods that you should eat. Do you have a list of superfoods that we should eat?
I think as a general rule...
You said vegetables.
Vegetables, green vegetables are very important. Fruits are very important. As we grow older, we don't need to have as much of the heavy proteins and meats. Fish, be very careful about where it's raised or caught. You can usually see on a package of meat, it's supposed to tell you if it's farm raised or caught natural. Chicken, poultry, for instance, many of the, if you can get free-ranged chicken and eggs, that's your best bet. Or grass-fed beef does not have the high concentrations of omega-6 fatty acids as with that which is grain-fed, for instance. So grass-fed versus grain-fed, free-range chickens that are organically grown without medicated mash. A lot of times people who develop allergies, say they have allergies to chicken and eggs at the same time, don't necessarily have an allergy to the eggs or chicken. It's the tetracycline mash that is fed to the chickens.
That's coming through the meat.
Yes, everything, that's the problem. Everything is going through our food chain. Another problem that we have is the way food is packaged. Everything is packaged in plastic now. Plastic is high in the phenols. Phenols have a terrible effect on us, create what are called pseudoestrogens, in which people are developing all kinds of problems as a result of being fed basically estrogen.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things that are happening. Preservatives, MSG, aspartame.
MSG makes me crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of information. Even years ago, there was a lot of information pointing to aluminum. Cooking on aluminum was not good. That they were finding high concentrations of aluminum in people with Alzheimer's disease.
Let's hold on that thought for aluminum. We got a phone call. You ready?
Sure.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Dr. Earl, and good morning, Doc. This is Linda Spalding.
Hey, Lynn.
I really find your discussion of different elements that we take in, how they can be a detriment to us with our daily diet. And I heard you mentioned, I think you called it aspartame, or aspartame. Well, aspartame is how I pronounce it.
Okay.
I don't know if that's correct or not.
Welcome to my world this morning.
But anyway, there have been studies that have linked that with autism. When women ingest it when they're pregnant.
Yes, that would not surprise me at all. There's also been a lot of research lately that the women who take Antidepressants quite often will have children with autism. But yes, anything that can affect the neurological development, the brain, nervous system in utero could certainly have an effect.
Foreign stuff in our bodies.
Yes.
Well, a recent study just came out on the news that they're linking diabetes with autism.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, pregnant women with diabetes. I'm just wondering if they're missing it, that those people that have diabetes, that have challenges with weight and what they eat, if it's not that they're taking substances that contain aspartame. I'm wondering if they're missing the point.
It could be part of it, yes. I think it's a multifaceted problem. Many women will develop a gestational diabetes while they are pregnant, and that can be a problem. But I think we do find that a lot of people don't eat properly while they're pregnant. They should be getting a lot more of the minerals, calcium and magnesium to help with the bony structure and development of the skeletal system of the infant. There again, when women aren't nursing naturally after the child is born, that can be a problem. But anything that mother eats or takes while she is pregnant will definitely affect that child. Something that's a very big problem right now is I saw on one channel where it was talking about 15% of children being born now are addicted to opioids already. Because of people taking not only prescription opioids while they're pregnant, but also illegal opioids such as heroin. That's a very large percentage.
Sure, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah,
that's so sad.
It's very sad.
Yeah,
So-
there are a lot of people that take prescription opioids.
Yes.
For things like back pains and stuff like that. You
Yes.
know, I'd rather have the back pain than all the other side effects.
Certainly.
Well, it's great to see you on the show, and I'm also calling about the Office for the Aging, the services that we have, and also our senior employment program. We have jobs, we're looking for people, and we have computer training. And the number is on the screen, 753-4471. Have a great weekend and a great week.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
You take care. Enjoy the beautiful weather.
Oh, it's glorious out.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I got, I always send a link to the show to my dad. I mention this every week. My dad's going to be 93.
Wow.
And I say to him, so what's your secret? He says, every day I eat fruit. I think 3 pieces of fruit, vegetables. You go to his house, I have lunch with him. There's got to be 3 or 4 of those things on the table every single meal, every day.
Yes.
Plus in between, and he's always, it's just, so he's a living proof of that stuff.
Certainly.
And he's complaining he's slowing down. You've been going on, he probably slowed down and was 90. I mean, he's getting to a pace that most of us are now at our age now.
I think that's half of the problem is that people retire and they seem to think that they have to slow down. You don't have to slow down. You have to keep moving. I see people who are in their 80s and 90s that are very functional and vibrant, but they keep moving. You have to keep moving to keep moving. Whether you have to just pace yourself a little bit more, but it does make a difference. You're stimulating the bones and the joints and muscles. If you don't recruit muscles and ligaments, they're going to atrophy.
Okay, let's keep talking about what you do as a chiropractor, and walk my viewers through what would be something that they would experience first time to visit you. They're a little nervous, and let's say they're experiencing some neck and back pain, and something's not quite right. What would they experience? What would happen?
Well, basically, we do an intake and a general history, overall overview, and I'll ask the patient specific questions regarding the nature of the pain.
Don't be shy. Tell everything, because you got to know all that
Certainly,
stuff.
all the things. Usually, a spouse will tell on them what they've been doing wrong. Or I see a lot of adult onset athletes who try to show their grandchildren how to do headstands and things like that. And the next thing they're in to see me. But as I'll ask them, you know, as far as the character of the pain, how intense is it? Is it localized? Is it radiating down an extremity, down the arm?
So these questions are important.
Yes, very important.
You're not just asking just to ask them.
So just by knowing whether or not which fingers are involved versus the whole hand will tell me and pinpoint where the problem is coming from. If there's a deficit in reflexes, it might indicate there's a problem with a disc. If it's just a problem, if it's with the entire hand, for instance, it may not be the neck per se. It might be between the shoulder blades, which is making the vertebrae in the neck overwork and put pressure on the muscles where the nerves.
So it just depends on what wire is being affected.
So yeah, definitely. The nervous system is like a electrical system in a house.
You're like an electrician.
And the vertebrae, I compare to the circuit breakers. If there's an overload in that particular circuit, it will pop.
Okay.
So by adjusting the vertebrae, we can restore normal function to that particular nerve root.
Okay, so they answer all the questions. Then what happens?
Okay.
This is where they're nervous.
From there,
they're
we'll,
nervous.
according
you're gonna break my
all
bones.
depending. Yep, they're always apprehensive about certain areas of the spine. Usually, the neck is the most apprehensive section. Probably from watching too many martial arts movies where people get their necks broken. The body is very resilient. It takes a lot, and all depending on the history. If it's a car accident, for instance, and symptoms are just off the wall, or everything is acute, and you can't get a specific diagnosis, then we might look into it with an X-ray or an MRI, all depending on what the symptomatology is. From there, I'll usually do some form of physiotherapy involving electrical stimulation, intersegmental traction, soft tissue massage, or perhaps ultrasound sine wave combination, and follow that with a specific adjustment of the vertebrae.
Let's talk. The first thing you said, electrical something.
Electrical stimulation.
All right.
Yeah.
Electrical stimulation. So why don't you describe that so people, if they do experience this, they know why it's being done and that you're not electrocuting them.
Right. The electrical stimulation we use mostly is what's called a sine wave or interferential
It's
therapy.
one of my favorite parts of it all. I can sit there like all day.
Yeah. So basically what that does is we're taking a modified alternating current, similar to what comes out of the outlets in the walls, and we're lowering the amperage and possibly increasing the voltage, all depending on how much you can tolerate. And specific frequencies will give you different results. Say, like if you have 80 pulses per second is essential for the production, stimulation of what we call endorphins, of the body's natural morphine. That will have a tendency to decrease the pain. The electrical stimulation of the muscles fatigues the muscles, or what we call tetanizes the muscles, to the point where the muscle uses up all its energy stores, the ATP that's in the muscle. The muscle is then forced to relax because it is fatigued. A muscle that is in spasm, you put through an electric current for an amount of time, and then it's relaxed. And once the muscle is relaxed, we can move the vertebrae that much easier.
You take the electrodes off, and then you go into another situation.
Right.
And then you break their bones.
Yeah, I don't break their bones. Yes.
So you actually begin to, and people see this, that you're turning the bones or manipulating
you
them.
can feel the realignment process if it's ready to go. I try not to force it too much, despite what people may think. You may think it's pretty rough. But by restoring that normal function and biomechanical structure of the vertebral segments, we can achieve overall health and by alleviating the pressure on the nerves that are being impinged or irritated.
Okay, Earl, we could talk about these things all day, but I did get a question through my Twitter here. It says, is it possible to replace spine pieces, or I guess discs, with 3D printed pieces?
I haven't heard of that technology, but it might be possible someday. Who knows what we're going to see in the future. I've seen a lot of changes over the years. They have different substances now that they can inject into vertebrae that have been crushed, for instance, to try to pump them back up like a tire. It's not perfected yet, but there are. I can possibly foresee a day when they may very well do something like that. I haven't heard of it yet, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. And do you do acupuncture?
No, I took acupuncture courses while I was in school, but I did not take enough to be qualified in New York State. New York State is very restrictive on their scope of practice, and I believe you have to have a medical doctor's license or work under a medical doctor to have to use acupuncture in New York State.
If people are interested, where are you and what's your phone number?
Okay, I'm at 73